And after the launch of episode 1, we are now officially into episode number 2 of the Chosen Life podcast. I am your host, the Chosen Lawyer. Welcome. And for today's episode, we are featuring a very cool guy, a guy that builds wealth for many people out there. Good friend of mine, the money man, Zach Rain. Zach, thank you very much for joining us here on the Chosen Life podcast today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure, my friend. We have lots of great conversations back and forth. And a lot of these podcasts are going to be born from the fact that I know someone, I met someone, we have great conversations. I'm thinking, you know what? I think millions of other people would love to hear this conversation, so let's have them overhear these conversations. And that's the Chosen Life podcast. Now, we just finished off episode 1. It launched. And I want to thank the audience ahead of time. It was great numbers came in, and as far as from the views and from the subscriptions. And again, heavily ask everyone, when you're watching this, please subscribe below, and please feel free to leave your comments. Love to hear your feedback. If you want to be featured on The Chosen Life, please DM me, and would love to hear your story. And you never know, you may be next. So on to episode number 2. Now, Zach, a little background on you. You wear many hats. You are a financial advisor. You host the Money Market Report. You create wealth management, group benefits, tax and financial planning. And with all that money, you aspects of your career, your background wise, you were a hockey coach for over 10 years. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I do all those things. It's like you said. I like to touch more or less every point in the process of anybody's financial life. And if not, I'm working with the people who do that. And yeah, I coached hockey for, I don't know, just about 12, 13 years. Youth hockey started off with 4-year-olds, as cute as can be. And then we made our way up just as they got older, we coached them longer. I coached family. I coached as just a volunteer or hired coach, whatever it was. And it's a blast. Like there's very few roles you get to play such as rewarding as watching players, athletes, whatever, people grow into better people, right? And the sport, it changes people. So it's really fantastic. And I'm just happy that I got to be part of the ride.
That's amazing. And it's funny because when you are a coach in sports and then you go into the business world and you have your career, isn't it funny how the aspects of coaching your players, dealing with parents, it's not that dissimilar from what your role is now, correct?
No, it's prepared me. It's prepared me very well. It's not something I knew as an 11-year-old going on the ice, setting up pylons for kids during practice. But it's very similar. You have to deal with parents who may not be happy all the time, whether it's for whatever reason, right? You have to be able to motivate people to do something, right? And we have a goal at the end of the day, a goal in mind. And so being able to motivate people to get not only in that mindset, but prepared and commit to that decision. Because at the end of the day, if you have a goal in mind, there is win-lose. And we want to make sure that we're on the winning side of things, right?
Always. And if we're not on the winning side, it's not going well for us, then we figure, is it the coach? Is it the players? Is it the role players? Is it our game plan? What is it? And we got to evolve the thing. We can't just keep rolling out, the same thing. It's funny. I read a lot about sports. I love sports, as I know you do. And I was reading about a basketball coach that was talking about his team, the Atlanta Hawks. And he was saying, I don't know if we did the right thing. We made it to the conference finals last year. Did we do the right thing by rolling out this exact same team? Maybe it's on us. Maybe we weren't good enough to overcome that hump. And we thought that same group maybe we need a different voice. Maybe we need a different player in there. It's funny how, hindsight's 2020, obviously, but you can have one game plan going into it, and then you have to shift it on the fly. But you have to figure out what's the formula. What is the missing component?
Of course, it's a lot of reading and reacting, right? And, in some cases you have to, my father, he was my first coach. He would always say, go back to the drawing board, which is, you go back, you reassess everything and you change things. But it's interesting you bring that up, right? Because look at the Winnipeg Jets and Paul Maurice, coached there for 10 years, more or less the same team. He's been building a team that you would think is, a Stanley Cup contender just by looking at the roster and everything. But they haven't pushed that far. And he said the same thing. He goes, I have nothing but respect and love for every person in that room, but they need a new voice. I'm just not getting through to them so that we can get, the message of we're a Stanley Cup team across. And so, yeah, it changes. And it's all about, reading and reacting, changing and adapting to what's out there, right? Because if you pull out the same thing, you're a step behind. The world is always changing, so you have to change with it, right?
Absolutely. And on that segue, it's funny how we'll start a conversation and in my mind, it segues into a topic. So I'm going to segue you into topic number one. So the format of the Chosen Life podcast, we got our three topics that we're going to talk, debate, discuss, and inform. It's useful, useless information, depending on where people are in their lives. But we feel everybody can get something out of it. And everybody needs to figure out money at the end of the day, because money is what makes the economy and our lives go by. So think about yourself, whoever's listening out there, and your life is really your team. That's your organization, and you are the coach of your own team. So that being said, when you assess your money situation, where are you at? So we're going to jump into topic number one right away. And it's, how do I make my first $1 million? Now, Zach, the reason this topic came alive, I remember one time I knew this person. He was a little bit of a douche, I guess you can call that as a nice word or not nice word. But he had this pickup line that he needed a wingman for this. All right. So they'd be at a restaurant, a bar, whatever. And he'd have, two women listening, overhearing their conversation. And he would lean over and say to his friend, you know what? It's really true what they say. The first million is the hardest to make. So on that pickup line, with that being said, I would say for anybody out there that has it, and you deal with very high net worth people, I'm sure. So it's one of those things that the first $1 million in the bank account, I'm sure, is impossible to get. It takes forever. But it's funny how when you get to the first million, the second million can come and so forth. So how it can grow, to those kind of levels once you reach certain thresholds. But to reach that first threshold, the next threshold can be very, very difficult. So what we're going to talk about today for our listeners is, for those people out there, maybe you have it, maybe you need it, you want it, but how do we get that first $1 million into someone's bank account?
Yeah, so it's a great question. It's something I deal with a lot of the time. It's like you said, I deal with a lot of high net worth individuals. So we have a couple, millionaires, tens of millionaires, hundreds of millionaires, and when you talk to them and you hear their story, it's always the same thing, right? It's not like the recipe hasn't changed with respect to how to make your first million. It's always about creating diverse sources of income and then diversifying within your investment scheme, right? So to say that one income in this world is enough is just not true. If you live at least within the GTA, that's where we live in Ontario. One income, unless you're making a very, very fantastic income, it's just not enough. And the majority of people aren't making into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars a year, right? So what you need to do is you need to find a way to produce different avenues of income. And if I could give a young person a piece of advice, the first thing I would tell them is just educate yourself properly. And it doesn't have to be, I hate the notion, because I have kids I've coached. Their parents or whoever told them, oh, you got to go to university, you got to get yourself a degree, then you got to get a master's and a PhD. It's not the case. Okay. I know a lot of professors who are poor, and I know a lot of plumbers who are rich. All right. So it's just about doing what you like and finding a way to make money, right? Follow the demand. And so once you educate yourself, whether it is university or whether it's going to do an apprenticeship or reading a book or doing an online course, whatever it is, find something that that you can do well and that you're passionate about and you can make money. Because if you're incentivized to make money and then you're incentivized to do it in many different ways, it makes everything so much easier, right?
So let's talk about those millennials out there listening right now, or people in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. They're listening to this, they're saying, I hear you, Zach, I got my income, I should have more incomes, I should figure out how to diversify. I want it quick and I want it right now. So I hear all the time about these people investing in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin, they put in $100 in Bitcoin, now it's worth $10 million. And I want that. I want to invest in Apple and Facebook, Meta, and I put in $1,000, it'll bring back 100,000 in a month. I want to get a quick rich scheme. I'm going to be a YouTube influencer, and I'm going to be the next Jake Paul, and I'm going to get 10 bazillion people watching me. Zach, like, I don't want to go and put money in a savings account and, collect 0.2% interest. I want quick rich now. Help me do
Yeah,
that.
no, I've spoken with a lot of people like that. I hate to be the person to tell you this, but there is no get rich quick scheme. All right. And then if there is, you're probably not doing it legally. So you might want to look into that. But if you got on the Bitcoin boat early enough, yeah, you were going to make a fantastic amount of money. If you got out of the Bitcoin boat, right? Like just anybody, I don't know when we're filming this now, but if go look at your crypto wallet, most people's crypto wallets are down, and it's because you're investing in something with no intrinsic value, right? You have to, when you're looking to make that first million, and even if you want to do it as a get rich quick, like the Jake Pauls of the world, you have to find demand, right? Jake Paul, everyone thinks he's a fool. Personally, I think he's a genius, right? Whether he acts like a fool or not, I'm not going to debate it, right? But what he's doing on the business side of things is absolutely inspiring, because he found an area of demand that everybody wants. He wants to play the villain. Sure, do it, right? And he's taking on the biggest and baddest people in all of their respective fields, right? Like Dana, no one touches Dana White, right? And who's the first person Jake Paul calls out once he gets into boxing? Dana White. Well, yeah, everybody wants to watch that. You're going to click that. I'm going to click that. We all want to watch that, right? There's only so many Jake Pauls in the world. So, you ever heard the expression old money?
Yes. Old money, new
It's old.
money.
It's old money. It's money that's been growing over time,
Yeah.
right? So to get rich quick, I don't know.
Yeah, no, and it's funny. I've read about these people. I haven't met many of them, and the people that I met, especially like I've been a lawyer now for close to 20 years. I'm coming up to 20 years actually, but the people that I know that are really wealthy, and you meet them, first of all, you'd have no idea that they're wealthy. You'd have no clue. You look at their outfit, you look at how they carry themselves. As far as they look respectable, but you don't know if they're worth 2 cents, or you don't know if they're worth $20 million. They're not draped in LV, and they're not pulling up in Bugattis. Like they're coming in like Chevy Tahoes and Honda Accords. But where did they make their money? A lot of them, it's real estate.
Yeah.
It's buying that first property and then leveraging that property and the next property and the next property, and that's a common pattern I've seen. That people that I give the example always of the Italian bricklayer, or Portuguese bricklayer, from the old country. They come, it sounds stereotypical, but that's a lot of them, when they came to this country, and in the 70s, 60s, and they were working at their trade, and as they saved money, all they kept doing was buying real estate. And then when they pass, all of a sudden they're holding 10, 20 properties, and be like, wait, but I thought they were laying bricks. Oh no, that was bricks. Those bricks are seeds. That's seed money for the real money. So I don't know if you like that expression or not, Zach, but I tell people, whatever you're doing in your job, at best it's seed money for what you're going to eventually make money in if you're going to invest it right.
Well, exactly. And you hit right on the nose as to one of the ways, and it's one of the most popular ways that people have made money, and just fantastic amounts of money, and it's in real estate, right? It's not because real estate as an asset is the coolest thing in the world. It's not like you go look at a building and you're like, oh wow, that's so pretty, I want to have it beside me all day long, right? It's because of the structure of real estate, right? First of all, it's leveraged, right? Which, if you're going to make your first million, you have to have a good credit score, and you have to be willing to take on leverage, because it's not only the fastest way, right? But you're not risking so much of your money as someone else's, right? And you're risking the bank's money. And so if you're able to take on that leverage, well, now you've maximized, and you've kind of grown your investment by, in some cases, 4 or 5 times the amount of what you could really afford, right? There's a difference between putting $20,000 into the stock market, and instead of putting $100,000 into a building and paying off, at least right now, a very low interest rate. And so the leverage is so powerful when trying to grow your first million. But another thing is it's finding an asset that you can collateralize, right? That you can leverage against. And I'm sure you see it probably day in and day out, where you have someone, they invest in real estate, their real estate value has grown.
Mhm.
What do they do now? They go to the bank and they get more leverage. And what do they do with that? They buy another property. And it's just this cyclical effect, right? It's what the bricklayers did back then. It's what everybody's doing right now. And it's a fantastic thing. And another thing is, and nobody, I don't say nobody, but not too many people think this way. And it's one of the things that I've been able to provide value for my clients. It's the tax scheme, right? Like if you live in Canada, you're being taxed up the wazoo, right? Just way too much money. And so when you find an asset that grows tax efficiently, that's going to make you money tax efficiently, you got to follow that train, right? Because that's where you're making the money.
Well, it's funny how, when I pick the topics for our weekly discussions, how they kind of flow and interrelate to each other. And in this case, I'm going to segue into topic number 2, because the more we're talking about this, I really think topic number 2 relates to topic number 1. And so we discussed firstly of how we're going to make our first $1,000,000. Now my question to you in topic number 2 is, how do we save money? Like, for people out there that are blowing their money, I see you all. You're lined up out onto the street. You're waiting for your daily Tim's run. I see you at Starbucks. I see you draped in LV. People, at the end of the day, to make the $1,000,000 in our minds, but yet they're not saving money. I think that's very related. So, Zach, how are people blowing their money, and how do they stop the bleeding?
Can I tell you, it is so bad. Like growing up, you see everybody driving around in their Benzes, right? Coming to school in their fancy clothes. Like when I was a kid, it was Roots. Yeah, like the Roots track
Still
pants.
is.
Everyone
Still
know.
there.
Like so there you go. And you're like, oh man, like that family has money. And then I remember in my first job, I saw one of them was a client of the person I was working for. And naturally, I was doing a review of their portfolio. And I was sitting there thinking, no, this can't be it. This can't be all of it, right? Because you see them and you see this lavish lifestyle they're living. And really, they probably got as much money as any average person in the bank, right?
Yeah.
Or at least in investments, whatever it is. And so, it's the first thing that I realized where it's like, maybe the people just aren't spending their money properly. And it's not really about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep, right? And so we have to find ways to, keep yourself honest as to what you're doing with your money. It's the first thing. I remember one of my first clients, one of the loveliest ladies you've ever met. She called me and she says, Zachary, I make a good amount of money, but I don't know why I don't have any, right? And I'm like, well, what do you mean you don't have any? And she goes, I'm literally scraping by every day. I can't even save for my retirement. And so what we did is we set her up on a budget. We said, these are the essential things that you need in your life. It's a 1-month exercise. Okay. Everything else is done. Cut it out, right? Yeah. And next thing you know, she's like, I saved $1,000 this month. And then you just go through the list. Like, what are things that she was spending money on? Uber. Uber is the worst. Can I tell you the amount of money?
But it's so easy. I just gotta swipe.
Oh, exactly. Okay, but that's it. They play on your convenience, and it's the same thing with Amazon, right? All you have to do is add to cart, right? And people, what they do is, because it's so convenient, they take advantage of it. And in some cases, yeah, sure, you got to Uber somewhere, right? And Uber Eats too, right? Like, some people don't know Uber Eats inflates the price of their actual food in addition to charging you a delivery fee. Like, it's just.
I didn't even know that. Wow.
Seriously, go look at the menu. Go on to any restaurant. Go look at the menu. Go look at their prices.
So there's a menu price and there's an Uber Eats price.
Yeah. So people they just don't know these things, right? And it's not like it's anyone's fault, but you have to become aware of these things to see that you're overspending. So between Amazon, and it's one of my favorite exercises with clients, right? This is the credit card statement exercise. Between Amazon, Uber Eats, Starbucks is one of the worst. It's crazy.
Wait, $8 coffees are not practical?
Oh my God, every day, right? And sometimes twice a day.
Oh.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then it's for me and for my partner, and I get my kids cake pop, and it can lead to craziness. But the worst is cars. The worst is cars.
Except in the last couple of years when they've actually gone up, Zach.
Okay, some of the classic cars have. I'll give you that much.
Yeah.
But in general, you're going out, you're leasing or financing a vehicle that's costing you more than it's worth. And at the end of the day, my dad always said, it goes from A to B, Zachary, right? Like there's some people out there who you can understand it because it's about building a brand,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
you have to look like you're making money in order to give people confidence that you are making money. Yes, the chosen lawyer. But that's it. You do the same thing. You're building a brand, right? Your lifestyle is it's so strong and committed that makes people motivated to do it, right? And so I can understand that much, but to have to drive around in $100,000 cars, which you drive it off the lot, it's already half the value. You get it in one accident, even a fender bender, it's a quarter of the value. And next thing you know, it's nothing.
It sounds like what you're doing is putting people on essentially a financial diet. Like I remember
Yeah.
when I was competing for bodybuilding, I got a spreadsheet every week and exactly the quantities of what I'm eating, when I'm eating, and it doesn't sound like financially people are doing much different. Like I guess they're getting a spreadsheet and they know what they're spending, what quantities at what times, and they're cutting everything else out. It sounds like a financial diet to me.
No, it's exactly what it is. We trim the fat, right? But it all comes from the first conversation, which it relays, like you said, back to your first point, which is what is your goal?
Yep.
Right? Some people, they want to live this lifestyle and they're fine. And I say, you know what, if this is the goal that you had in mind, living this lifestyle, I can't help you. That's fine. But if there is a next level that you want to reach, that we have to, clearly define that. We have to monetize it, because no matter what anyone thinks in this world, money makes the world go round, right? And so everything has a cost. We have to then associate that goal with a cost. And then we have to figure out how we're going to get there, right? It's just like, the first thing they teach you in economics class, I remember I did this in grade 11 economics. The first thing they teach you, opportunity cost. What's opportunity cost?
Yeah.
It's the next best alternative. So you're giving up something for something else, right? And you have to think about the opportunity cost of your decisions, right? Like, the $8 Starbucks every single day, you can put that in a good investment account. You could have hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars by the end of the year. And then it creates that snowball effect. And it's like you said, the first million is for the hardest to make, but the second million, it's a breeze, right?
I've told people, when I had my first part-time jobs when I was in school, I would look at, when I went to go purchase something, how many hours of work it would take me to buy this, and I'd look at this one shirt and I said, oh my God, this would take me 2 days to pay for, like, full-time labor. This sucks, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw some numbers at you, just just to kind of continue this conversation. First of all, the average Canadian I've read has 8 credit cards. So think about that. How many Canadians are out there? And the
Yeah.
average Canadian has 8 credit cards. So you're talked about Amazon, you talked about Uber Eats, and people aren't paying it from their bank account. They're like, it's easy. I just got to put on my credit card. And all right, fine. But it's funny. Then you come to Zach, you come to myself, like, Zach, how many people do I get doing refinances all the time? And they're like, oh, it's easy. My house went up by X amount of dollars. So I'm going to refinance. Remember, we talked about topic 1 about building wealth, right? They're not taking that extra equity and using it to buy the next property and building themselves wealth. They're rolling credit card debt into that house.
Yeah.
So they're pulling out their equity. Now they have more debt at a lower interest rate in their minds, but they've not gotten ahead at all. And that sucks.
No, it sucks. It's like a get out of jail free card. And it's only because of the area, especially that we live in, where properties are growing in value by just extreme rates, right? But and the worst is when you dug yourself this hole, and then that switch flips, right? Like I had a 27-year-old guy, really, really nice guy, working hard, making a good amount of money, but he's paying down credit card debt. It's not like he owns a property even that he can get that, that get out of free jail card. And it's a shame because he's paying 23% interest.
Yep.
And now he's taking out a personal line of credit. He's got a credit score of just over 400, which, if anybody knows, if you go to the bank for a loan, yeah, you're not getting a loan at a 400 point credit score.
I've heard 800 as a number. 400 doesn't sound very good to me.
No, you have to be 700 plus. You want to be in that 750, 760 range. If you're in 800, you're breezing by everybody.
You're gone. Okay.
But it's just, you've dug yourself this hole. And it's like I told him, he goes, I want to start building wealth. I want to start building wealth. I want to start building wealth. And so I set him up with a mortgage broker, just have a conversation so he could see what I was talking about.
Yes.
And the only thing he qualified for was a 13% private loan. It's like, I'm not making money here. Of course you're not making money here, right? You
Yeah.
dug yourself a hole. And so you have to be mindful of these things as you're doing it. And the average Canadian spends 180% of what they make, right?
Yeah.
It's nuts.
I was going to give you a scenario of client one and client two. Okay. Client one is a millennial, and they got their first job. They're making 50,000 a year. And they're saying, Zach, at the end of the day, I'm paying my bills. I don't think I'm living I'm not living extravagant. I'm pretty frivolous, and I'm barely paying my bills, and I'm barely getting ahead, and I'm not making much money. That's one person. And I've seen these people as clients. And then you got two doctors, been doctors for 20 plus years, each of them. And you think they'd be rolling in money, right? Just rolling in it. And you know what? They're coming at the same point. They're saying, we're living our lifestyle. Don't think it's that crazy. All we got, we got our, 5,000 square foot house, and we got our 3,000 square foot cottage. We only change our Mercedes every 3 years. We only take 4 trips a year. Like,
Yep.
Zach, I buy all my Gucci on sale, and it's like, still, I got nothing to show for it at the end of the day. So it's funny how you can have one income stream, two crazy income streams, and yet they're all ending up at the same place. They got nothing to show for it at the end of the month, and they're not putting away anything.
It's hard. It's those are one of the toughest situations to see, because there is so much potential there, and it's it's hard because you compare one to the other. But what can you do? Some people they're not committed, right? Either they're not committed or they don't realize, and it takes a group of people to make someone realize, right? Like that's what I always tell people. And I'm working with a doctor right now. He's a surgeon. He just got out of med school, or no, sorry, he just finished his rounds, and he just got signed on his first contract. Guy's making $480,000 a year, right? And he thinks, Zach, I've been in debt this whole time, right? Now, what do I do? And the first thing he told me, he calls me, he goes, so do you think I can afford this Porsche? That's what he calls me, and he asks me. And I said, could you afford it? Yeah, for sure. Should you be buying it? Absolutely not.
But he
And so
wants it.
what
He wants
yeah,
it.
well, of course he wants it. There has to be, I tell people all the time, you can't just live a lifestyle where you're penny pinching and saving all the time. There has to be some reward to it, right? And that's what I told him. You have to have a small reward, right? Or many, many small rewards, right? You can't just go out and blow it on that first $250,000 car just because you can, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's rough. But what I did with him, and it's what, the second you're making a lot of money, you have to do this. Like, I would consider it an absolute necessity. You have to build yourself a power team, right? You need a group of individuals who are going to keep you on check and who are going to work together.
Absolutely. And that's where I tell people when clients come to me, it's funny, by the time they come to me as the lawyer and they're talking about their corporate needs, their real estate needs, one of the things I tell them is, did you do the planning in the background? Do you have the financial planner? Do you have the accountant, the mortgage broker, the lawyer? We work as a team. The team aspect is really, really important. And you're going to execute with a lawyer, but you haven't planned your tax implications and you haven't made a game plan. You need that financial advisor. You need that accountant. We all work together. So it's funny how you and I are in different arenas, but at the end of the day, we're working with a lot of the same clients and we're trying to steer them in the same direction. It's just what part of the team that we're going to be and how we're going to end up working together and making their goals come true. But it's funny because people often don't put that team together, or they pick one individual, and sometimes that individual oversteps their boundaries, and you really needed to have a more cohesive unit together that brings their own skill sets, and that's how the clients are better served at the end of the day. So
yeah, I had a horror story.
Yeah,
I had a horror story just near the end of last year. Guy comes up to me. He's making, again, 500 grand a year, 400 grand a year. It's a crazy amount of money, right? Young kid, and he's into the real estate game, right? He says, oh, I want to buy real estate. I know the value. I've read the books. I did the research, everything like that, right?
Yep.
And so he comes to me, he goes, my mortgage broker is going to do this for me and this for me. And I told him, I said, I would definitely speak with your accountant, right? And on a first meeting basis, it's not like I can give that guy the stern talk that he needs, right? But I told him, I said, you really need to be speaking with your accountant about this decision. lo and behold, most of the money he has is sitting in a corporation, and he got qualified for whatever. He got qualified for the mortgage he needed because he makes a great amount of money. But the mortgage is being held personally, and they pushed it through personally on a property without checking. Obviously, the lawyer didn't know any better, because why would they? And he comes to me with the situation, and now the only way for him to get money out of his corporation to pay for it is for it to be taxable. He's going to have half of what he needs in order to put down for it. And so, the guy's, he's now carrying an extra 200 in private from someone else at 12-13%.
Unbelievable.
And it's what happens when you don't have that unit that's working together. And I told him that. I said, I hope this is a small lesson for him to learn. And you know what? The best thing for him is he's going to make it, and he's going to pay it off in like 3 months, because he makes that amount of money, right?
But not everybody
I
can.
told him, not exactly. So I said, you're lucky. Not everybody can. And so, it's a lesson learned for him where he kind of got lucky, but not for everybody, and even for that individual who's making 50 grand a year, don't think that it's not enough money or anything for these people. I always get that question, like, do I have enough money for you to work with me? There are people out there who work with anyone. I don't care if my client's worth $5 or $500 million, right? The service is the same. One person needs more work potentially, but no matter what, I'm helping everybody, right? And there's other people out there too. I'm sure you're no different, right? So
let's follow along here now. So we've gone into our first two topics, right? How we're going to make that first $1 million, how we're going to save money. And we found that it's all interrelated. First of all, as far as having your income, finding an income stream, multiple income streams, figuring out how to save money, going on a budget, and putting the right team together. So it sounds like we have really, really good steps here as far as how to save the money, and then how to build money, and how to make money, and how to get to that first $1 million, which segues us into our third topic. Now, probably everybody's watching is curious. They're like, how did they coordinate so well here? We got a powder blue chosen lawyer shirt. We got Zach in his blue dress shirt with the blue walls. And there is a theme there. This was not a coincidence, although it kind of was a coincidence.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I knew Zach had a blue wall, so then I had to go with the blue shirt. But keeping with the theme of blue, because we're based in Ontario and Toronto, there's this hockey team called the Toronto Maple Leafs. We've all heard them. A lot of people really like them. Some people don't. That being said, whether you like them or don't like them or love them or don't, everybody's always curious, is this going to be the year? For as long as I've been alive on this earth, the same question, is this going to be the year that the Maple Leafs win the Stanley Cup? And topic number 3 is slightly controversial, because that's how I ride, is that the Maple Leafs will never win the Stanley Cup in our lifetime. Zach, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree. I think the Leafs are going to win the Stanley Cup. I think they're a lot closer than people may think. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest problem for the Leafs thus far is, talk about money, has been the money issue, right? Their salary cap, the fact that they've got 4 players being paid $50 million a year and an $80 million cap, right? So if you're already paying more than half to 4 players on a team of 20 players, how does that help? And I had this discussion with another financial planner, and I don't know if it's 100% true, so don't quote me on it, right?
Well, but this is not the show off the record, so you're on the record right now, Zach. So
I'm on the record here. So
you are on the road.
Yeah, exactly. He told me that hockey players are being paid personally, right? So they don't get paid into like a corporation or anything, or at least they have been, right? And so the problem is if you play in Toronto and we live in a tax scheme of you're losing pretty much half your money. Yeah, exactly. They need more money in order to equate playing somewhere else, right? Like if you look at the best teams that there have been over the years, right? You've got the Florida teams, right? Tampa Bay is they're a superpower that's just been running, and now you look at the Florida Panthers; they're the next one, right? And Dallas was another superpower, and these are all cities that have low tax schemes. Right?
That's not a coincidence that people want to play there. I thought it was the weather.
No, it's not a coincidence. No, if you remember when the Leafs were going after Tavares, whatever it was, 4 or 5 years ago, they were also going after Stamkos because they were best friends, right? Yes. And the first pitch was to Stamkos. But Stamkos said, and I can't remember where it is, but it was published saying, for me to stay in Florida and get paid $8 million or whatever it is, $9 million that he's getting paid, I'd have to go to Toronto and be paid $13 million in order to leave with the same amount of money, right? And so that's what and that's why he's able to take these team-friendly contracts. But in Toronto, you can't do that.
But it's funny, you bring up the Stamkos example, and I don't know Steve Stamkos. I'd like to know him if he'd like to appear on the show. He's more than welcome, obviously. But part of the issue with Stamkos, I'll argue, is that I don't know if the guy wants to play here. Who needs this pressure? Who needs the pressure of every day you walk down the street, you go to Chipotle and you go to a Starbucks. Hey, Steve, we're winning this year. Steve, you're a bum. Steve, you're terrible. Like who needs that? He goes to Florida, go lie on the beach. Everybody leaves you alone, collects your tax-free money. Sure, if you come to Toronto, you'll get more endorsements. Maybe the endorsements will override the whole tax thing. But on the same token, who needs the pressure? Who wants to be here and listen to this? Because, it's funny because living in this major market that we do and how passionate we are about hockey, it's not much different than in relative terms of, let's say, the Yankees in baseball. And, people there eat, breathe, sleep their team, and it's a lot of pressure to be there. And everybody's watching, every movement you do, every game, really, do people want that?
Yeah, no, it's right. You're right. You're living under a microscope, but some people do want that. Some people thrive under that. Right. And, it's always, you could be on Tampa Bay with a moderate market, which has been built over the years, right? Mm-hmm. And if you win the Stanley Cup, you go down your boat parade and that's fine, right? But look what happened with the Raptors when the Raptors won their championship. The Toronto went nuts. Huh?
They did. I was saying the Raptors? No, I'm joking. But
no, exactly.
Funny how that comes full circle right away. But yeah.
Well, exactly.
But they did it, and they were the biggest thing ever.
Exactly. And the Leafs are bigger than the Raptors, no matter what anyone says, because the Leafs have been around for longer.
Let's talk about that then. Let's talk about that because the Raptors did win a championship, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to argue that part of the reason why the Leafs are not going to win the Stanley Cup in our lifetime goes as follows. Because there's still a demand and there's still that hype. And I got to buy into this because this is the year and they got to keep pulling the incentive, the carrot, And once they win that championship, okay, they won it. Who cares anymore? Let's move on to the next thing, And I feel like part of, there's an underlying kind of subconscious decision making here to bring us close enough to tease us, but not give us that actual championship because management knows at the end of the day, we win that championship. And then, the main player to go, we become like the Raptors, become a 500 team. And let's talk about another topic. So how do we stay relevant? By never winning that championship. It's a conspiracy theory. I hear you. Not saying I believe this, but for the purpose of our discussion, I'm going to take that position. How do you view that?
That's fine. I think that it may be a little bit of a reach. I understand it because at the end of the day, NHL is a corporation. They're trying to make as much money as possible. Same with MLSE, right? And, it's like dangling the donut on the guy running on the treadmill, right? I get that. But at some point is enough, enough, it has to be enough. 65 years, 67 years we're at right now. And
whatever. It could be 200 years, but I'm saying, how many NHL teams are there?
31.
Okay. So you have a 1 in 31 odds. And then you have some teams, you have the upper echelon, the top 5-6 teams, you have the bottom 5-6 teams, they kind of cancel each other out. But it's really, really difficult. You got to put a strong team together. You have to have everybody from the upper management to the coaching staff, to your superstars, to your role players. You have to have a goalie standing on his head. Like Jack Campbell's playing, MVP caliber type hockey. He's a Vezina candidate this year. But on the same token, one thing happens to him. Now what? We're going to put me in goal?
Exactly.
We're going to bring the Zamboni driver, David Ayers, in there. Like, what are we going to do? So you have to have everything hit on a perfect level. And what I'm saying is, as they've shown for all these years, it's next to impossible to do that unless you literally have every single component. And I don't think it's going to happen this year. I don't think it's going to happen next year. I don't think it's going to happen in our lifetimes, quite frankly.
It's hard. It's hard because every game is a game of matchups, right? Like after coaching hockey for as long as I did and then playing in hockey, It's not like, the best team in the NHL is going to beat every team out there, right? Like we all have our form of a kryptonite. Look at the Leafs in Boston, right? They could run over every single other team, but you get Boston in the playoffs, it's a problem, right? And look at what the Leafs did last year, even with Montreal. Montreal went on to the Stanley Cup final, and the Leafs were breezing through them. I think the problem with the Leafs right now is living under the pressure of being a Leaf player, right? It's being under that scrutiny because you have Mitch Marner, who, you know, you love hating him and you hate loving him. But let's be real, what the guy can do with the puck is spectacular, right? Like if he played even half as well in the playoffs as he did in the regular season, yeah, you'd be happy that he signed with the Leafs for the $11 million he did. But the problem is that it's either boom or bust in the playoffs, right? That's just how it is, and it's been bust, 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 bust. So if they're able to get to the point where they can get over it, really, like, I don't know what else to say, like, they can get over that stigma of, oh, I'm a Leaf, everybody hates me, right? We're gonna fail, blah 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 blah, and just say, you know what, we're gonna win. Like, it's just how it is. We're gonna win. Go out there, win game 4 or even game 5 or 6 or even 7, right? They had 4 chances and they blew it. And so once you can get to that point, they'll be like a freight train. And I think it's going to happen. I think they have the majority of the components. They may be missing a world-class D-man, top D-man. Morgan Riley's great. I love him. He's having the best year of his life, but he's no Victor Hedman. He's no Cale Makar.
So I got your formula then. I'm gonna think outside the box here because obviously it's not working. We're not getting there. So, and because of my overall love of sports, my thinking is like this. I think a lot of it comes from top down. And I think management is the one that really creates the atmosphere, creates the game plan. And I think you put a different management system into place with the same players, I think you're going to see different results because at some point you can't change all the players all the time, right? I'm not
Of
saying
course.
anything badly about Brendan Shanahan or the rest of the Leafs management team, but here's my thinking. Sports is sports. It's very similar formulas, whether it's football, baseball, hockey. It's all the same type of idea as far as winning games, making money, etc. So my logic is like this. You got Theo Epstein, okay? And for those of you that don't know in the hockey world, Theo Epstein is the genius that went and broke the curse for the Red Sox and then the Chicago Cubs. You're talking about Maple Leaf curses and how bad it's been. Go look up the history of the Red Sox and the Chicago Cubs and how bad it was and the level as far as from those major markets and how important baseball is. And they were never going to end the curses, and they did. And they won their championships. And really, who gets the credit for that, for the most part, is Theo Epstein. He's the guy that created put the teams into place as far as management wise, coaching, whatever formula he had, it clearly worked. Now he works for Major League Baseball as an executive, helping to organize Major League Baseball and where they're headed. They're on strike right now, by the way, or locked out, sorry. And good luck to them. Theo, if you're listening to this right now, love to have you on the show as well and talk about this. If I'm the Maple Leafs, I'll pay him whatever he wants. I don't care. You got to pay him 10 million, 15 million a year. Theo Epstein's your guy. Bring in the formulas for what he did to break those curses, and he is going to bring you the Stanley Cup into Toronto. Done.
Yeah, and he's like, I like Steve Yzerman, right? I think he's the hockey version or the baseball version of Steve Yzerman. If you look what he did with Tampa, he built a team that was a previous Stanley Cup winner with the Cavalier and Martin St. Louis era that went from 100 right down to 0 very quickly, right? And he built them back up again. He's doing it with the Detroit right now, with the Detroit Red Wings. So the Leafs do need someone like him, and we all know they've got the money. So start shelling some of it out.
It's funny because at the end of the day, in any business, whether it's sports, even in medicine, it's funny. At the end of the day, we talk about doctors and doctor clients. At the end of the day, they're there to help people, but people got to remember it's still a business. Everything's a business at the end of the day. When you're watching the news and you're reading a newspaper, there are businesses that own that, and it all comes down to revenues, expenses, and making money. Yes, you're trying to make a difference and give information to people and help people. In the Maple Leafs case, they're here to entertain you, by all means, show you great hockey. But remember, at the end of the day, background to our original theme of all this is money. I want it, I need it, and how do I get it? And the Maple Leafs are making boatloads of money between how much they charge on tickets, as far as their revenue streams and advertising. They got the formula. They got multiple income streams. They know how to do it, right? And so when you're making that kind of money, what's your incentive at the end of the day? Because a lot of teams need to win championships in order to capture fans' attention. Like when the Dallas Stars, when they moved from from the Minnesota North Stars to Dallas, the original, people were excited because you have a new team, but that wanes off. And if you don't win those championships, you lose your fans. So people, teams get very desperate. They'll mortgage their futures, do whatever it takes. The Maple Leafs don't have that same kind of incentive at the end of the day because they're making that money, And so there's many levels of this of, are they going to do it? Are they not? But at the end of the day, it all comes down to a boardroom, and you got executives. And what do they really look like? Our bottom line is up. Our bottom line is doing really well. So congratulations, everybody gets bonuses. Wait, but we didn't win the championship. You're getting bonuses. You made money. It's all good. So
yeah, exactly. It's hard when you look at it that way. But you're an athlete too, right? Put yourself in a position. You're in a competition, and you're thinking, yeah, you know what? No matter what, I'm going to be fine. I'm making money anyways, right? But there's still that drive, right? No matter what position you're in, there's still that personal need to just go out there and win, right? So there's money at the end of the day, but we're talking about a sport where there's a mindset, right? There's that mindset, and it's not just a mindset, it's the accountability from people on your team, right? Look at Jason Spezza, right? I love Jason Spezza. He's one of my favorite people to watch. Guy's been in the league for more than enough time, and he still hasn't won a Stanley Cup. Quality player, always been a quality player. Even on the fourth net line now, he's putting up point per game averages, right? When's he going to win the Stanley Cup, right? How about Joe Thornton? When is he going to win the Stanley Cup? Patrick Marleau, and there's all these people, these legends that are going to end their careers without having a chance to win the Stanley Cup. And then you got people like Pat Maroon, who's on his third.
Yeah, but
right?
remember, Zach, these people also, when they're finished each game, they have agents, advisors. They got teams. Again, you notice this theme about the teams. You need to have, your team to make money. You need to have your team to win the championship. These players on their own are their own organizations. They have their team. They got their chef. They got their personal trainer. They got their financial advisor. They got their agent. They're looking at their stats. Oh, if I reach this level of goals, if I reach this level of performance, I'm making X amount of dollars. If I go out there hurt and I all of a sudden have to miss games and I have a games played clause and I miss enough games, I'm not going to get paid X. It's funny. It's all a business at the end of the day. It's amazing how much sports has gone from just let's strap on some skates and screw the money, let's just win championships, to every single component of it is broken down statistical wise and figured out in dollars. And you know what, maybe I'm not up to playing today because you know what, I don't want to risk injury and my contract's coming up and I don't want to miss free agency. It's amazing how much the dynamics have changed over time.
You said exactly what I wanted you to say, because we are all individual businesses, right? Austin Matthews, one of the best players in the world right now, right? Guy is putting up numbers that rival the future greatest scorer of all time in Alexander Ovechkin, right? In 2 years, he's gone. That's my thought. Want to know why? The Leafs don't win a Stanley Cup. He's going home. If you look at Arizona, they've cashed out pretty much every contract they have going into 2023-4 season, or maybe 4-5. I can't remember. But that's because when Austin Matthews' contract is up, he's going to say, okay, I'm not going anywhere with the Leafs. So who's going to be the highest bidder? And it's going to be Arizona. He's going to go home to his family, where he grew up, where he lives, and he's going to cash in there. And then once you lose, the all-stars and then the belief behind them, you're done. And it's funny because I went to, obviously pre-COVID, I went to Philadelphia with my hockey team for a tournament. And you go watch a Flyers games, right? And I'm sitting there, and I've never seen a fan base heckle their team as much as the Philadelphia Flyers.
Well, they're very well known for years. This is their thing.
But it's crazy. And you think to yourself, why the hell do you even come? And they're like, well, they're not going to keep themselves accountable. We're going to keep them accountable to their actions, right?
They're the
And
coaches.
so,
Yeah,
yeah,
you got
exactly.
30,000 coaches in the
Exactly.
audience every game. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh
Yeah.
God, they're all car coaches too. Anyways, you got them, they're sitting there screaming there, right? And, I think, why don't you just go home? Why are you paying for tickets to come here?
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen to the Leafs, right? There's going to be that loss of faith, that loss of belief, and there's going to be a drop off. And, it's what happened in between Sundin and now, and it's going to happen again.
So for the people watching today, I'm gonna put a challenge to them and say to them, at the end of the day, when you walk away from today's episode and think about the money theme and think about how businesses are run and think about how to make that first million, how to save money and how to win championships at the end of the day, think about yourself. Are you that person in the stands that's heckling somebody else as far as how they're going about their performance? Now look within yourself. How are you running your organization, being your life? Are you doing everything you can to maximize your revenues? Do you have income streams coming in? Are you saving money? Are you working towards a championship? Or are you just skating up and down and going with the stream and heading nowhere? I think at the end of the day, it's, one of the things why we love sports is because it's fantasy. We all dream that, we could go grab a hockey stick and we could score the winning goal and we can go get $100 million contract. We love to live in fantasy land, but the odds are that it's 0.0001% chance that we're going to end up being that Austin Matthews, right? And so at the end of the day, that being said, if most people are role players at the end of the day in their lives, in their work, that's fine. What role have you chosen? But at the end of the day, how are you running your organization? And are you maximizing your organization to be the best that it can be? And it's going to come week after week after week. It comes down to it. You can't do it on your own. You have to have the right team. You got to have the lawyer in place. You got to have the financial advisor in place. We got to have the people in place that can help us achieve our dreams. Because if you're doing it on your own, you weren't educated for it, you don't have the experience in it, you're going to spin your wheels. You're going to be reading a bunch of articles, investing your money in the next fly-by-night company and an opportunity, and the money's gone overnight. And that's really, really sad, and that's where have the game plan, have the organization, have the team in place, and then and then your dreams come true. And then you get that money that you want it, you need it, you got it, you're going to get it.
I'm inspired. That was fantastic. That was like listening to the pregame speech of the freaking Miracle, in the movie. You see the kid who's doing that speech now. He's fantastic.
It's funny because when I'm wearing the shirt, it's funny because people see it and they're saying, do you just love your biceps? And I do, yeah. But at the end of the day, because I'm proud of myself, because I worked hard towards achieving something, and right. I did it with no talent. I did it just with ambition and drive, getting my team into place. And if I can do it, anybody else can do it. And that's where I'm bringing people on as well that have been successful, inspire people, have a message, have stories. And people listening to this will say, you know what, I can make the best of my life, And on that note, Zach, thank you so much. I know you have meetings yesterday and today, and you slotted us in. So thank you very much for taking the time today. And we definitely love to have you back. And thank you for your financial wizardry. And excited to hear about people commenting, over time as they make their first millions.
Yeah, no, it was my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I definitely look forward to coming back on the show and talking more about it. And I'd love to see, in the next episode, how people have followed up with what we spoke about, right? So that would be really exciting. And thank you for having me. And to everyone out there, it's like the chosen lawyer said, right? It's attainable, right? So just work towards it, put your head down, and you'll be fine.
So everyone, you have our names, you have our contact and our handles below. So please feel free to reach out to myself or Zach directly if you have any questions and want to comment on the show. Again, subscribe to the channel, please, very important. Leave your comments, hit the notification bell to find out the next episodes. Until next time, keep living the chosen life. Wait a minute. Are we still running? Well, I know you already hit the subscribe button, the like button to say how much you love this episode, and the notification bell so you get notified of all our future episodes. But you still feel like you want more. Well, when you're ready to contact the chosen lawyers at Kormans LLP, we are here to help you. Whether you're looking to close a real estate transaction, a refinance, a corporate commercial matter like a lease, a shareholder agreement, an incorporation, you need a will or power of attorney prepared, a family law matter comes up, contact the chosen lawyers. We are here for you. So, how do you get in touch with us? It's really simple. You go onto our website, go to kormans.ca, that's KORMANS.ca, fill out the contact form, and a chosen lawyer will get in touch with you. So it's very easy. We look forward to seeing you very soon. And thank you very much for watching The Chosen Life. We'll see you back very shortly.